Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man that is going to record this episode with a large rock on his chest. This is Johnny Numb.
I'm surprised I can talk this well with a rock on my chest right now, that I'm not wheezing uncomfortably. But hey, maybe I just have some superhuman strength, maybe not human at all, coursing through my veins right now.
Whoa, did you go in for a research assignment, and were you one of the only people to live? And now you have superpowers?
Maybe, Mark. I'm one of the only Johnny Numbs left alive. Yeah.
All your clones are dead?
Yeah.
Is this like one of those Resident Evil movies where you're Alice and you've just been cloned and we don't even know which one you are by now? How many Johnny Numbs are there or were there?
There's an interesting backstory on well, it's not really interesting, but just the whole concept of a Johnny Numb, which goes back to my high school days. So there's probably several different iterations of the Johnny Numb character within the extended Johnny Numb multiverse, I would say.
Oh, Johnny Numb multiverse. I want to see this world.
The mind boggles, right?
Johnny Numbiverse. No, you know what I love, Johnny Numb? During our Feel Good series, we're covering Park Chan-wook's 2009 film Thirst, and I want you to sort of picture something in your head. So I would say it's probably 2010. 2010. I'm in 28-year-old Mark Hoffmeyer is with Megan Hoffmeyer, and we are hanging out. And the first movie, who Megan, you know from the show, she's my wife, but she was my girlfriend, fiance. Our first movie we ever watched was Drag Me to Hell. Then we watched Man on Wire. Then one night, I was a big fan of Korean cinema. Actually, one of the first things that got me into it was my buddy. I was a bouncer at a bar. My buddy Kahuna, he was 6'11", awesome. He was like, hey, I got this movie. Like, we used to watch Layer Cake. He was always the guy who was like, hey, I got this movie.
Nice.
And so we went over there and we watched Old Boy. And I went, oh my gosh, this like blew my mind. And then a few years later, I lived in Korea. I remember I drove an hour to go see Host in 2006. Every time I went by the Han River, I was always like, I was really hoping for a monster to just start attacking everybody. So I was a big fan of Korean cinema. And so I was like, Megan, we gotta watch this new movie. It's called Thirst. 2 hours and 14 minutes, and it is just an absolute journey, like the house that Jack built. We've talked about Lars von Trier. We've talked about Paul Verhoeven, Park Chan-wook. We've like Paul Schrader, Abel Ferrara. I love the movie. Like, we've covered some gnarly direction.
Yeah.
And so we watched it, and it's a 2 hour and 14 minute trip into hell. I mean, it starts off very sensitive and expansive with this priest. And it becomes one of the most claustrophobic films ever inside this painted white home that just is wildly oppressive. And by the end of it, Megan was pretty much shell-shocked. Any movie she's watched since then, and people are like, oh, you're not going to believe how vicious this movie is. She's like, you haven't seen Thirst. So, I jumped her into the deep end of Korean cinema. And this movie has never left me, man. It's 13 years later, and it hasn't left me. This movie has lingered in my memory like the undead husband who was murdered during a canoe trip. It's like we talked about with Bad Lieutenant, and I'll let you talk eventually, Johnny Numb, because you're very articulate, well-written, well-groomed, and apparently you have clones. But this movie is much like Bad Lieutenant. It has to be this way. It has to be a descent into hell, because, it's about a good man who becomes a vampire, and it all just goes awry. And I found an interview with Park Chan-wook from 2005, and he goes, obviously everything is exaggerated in Old Boy because it's a fable. But what I'm really interested in is how people today deal with a guilty conscience. My characters aren't evil. They are basically good people who find themselves unable to live with their darkest emotions and suffer tragedy as a result. And this is 2005, well before this movie came out. It's just such an interesting thing. Like, all of his movies really do cover that theme, and about a good man who becomes a vampire, who becomes smitten with Kim Ok-bin, turns her, everything just goes to hell in a handbag. A hell in a bread basket.
it's
And
it's it, it's okay, Mark. It's the multiverse. It can be a hand
uh,
basket, bread basket,
hot dog basket.
Easter basket. Yeah, I don't know.
Whoa, oh
Yeah.
nice. Basket Case,
Oh yeah,
the Green Day
Belial.
album, or the
Bel-
movie.
Belial in the basket. Yeah.
Basketball, Basquet. No, gosh, but
Banquet frozen dinner. I don't
Coors Banquet beer, Cobra Kai, Indiana Jones, and the Temple and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Just as long as it's not Temple of the Crystal Skull or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
good aliens. But they
Could it be, Mark? Aliens.
Russian accents. It's one, but this movie, man, it has just stuck with me, and it's such a descent into madness, and it's performed and shot. I mean, Chung Hoon Chung's cinematography, which I mean, I love his, like he shot Me and Earl, the Dying Girl, he shot Handmaiden, he shot It.
Yeah.
This is a guy who I actually want to watch Zombieland Double Tapped again because he shot that. And this is a guy who they've worked together for a very long time. I mean, Old Boy is beautiful. All these movies are beautiful. And for me, this is artwork. This is absolute art to me. This Thirst to me is a piece of art. And it's a shame that there's 40 minutes of sex and just a wild amount of blood and blood flutes that keeps the mainstream from really embracing this movie. I mean, it won a jury prize at Cannes, but you show regular folk this, and justifiably they're going to want to like fist fight somebody. But this is a beautiful movie, Johnny Numb, and I'm glad we're talking about it, man. And thank you for joining me.
No, absolutely, Mark. And I totally agree with you. I think a word I would use to describe Park Chan-wook is, from the movies I've seen of his, is just he's a very meticulous director. His shot compositions, you were talking about the use of color in this film. It's just really spot on, and it all contributes to kind of this overarching, kind of oppressive mood that he creates through this film. And it's kind of weird because it doesn't necessarily start out that way. It just kind of gradually then quickly snowballs into something more complicated for these characters. And I think that kind of goes back to his fascination with characters experiencing guilt or whatever, or how guilt is experienced or expressed or conveyed. Because something I really like about Thirst, despite all the fantastical elements, is that in a lot of ways it's very, I feel, practical minded in the way the characters act once they convert over to the demands of their vampirism, which includes getting rid of certain people. But it's just like, in a way, it's like the actions make sense. They're abhorrent and they're morally objectionable because this is murder. This is, deviancy, basically. It's this pastor converted to a vampire, and now he's killing people for their blood. So I just think it's kind of beautiful, the quandaries that Park Chan-wook creates in this film, because they owe less to the fantastical elements and more just to kind of the human element that these characters still possess despite their condition. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they talk about themselves as becoming human-eating beasts, and when Kim Ok-bin, who's in The Villainess, very fun action film, when she turns, I like that she acts like, why are you acting so humane? You're not human. And she says, like, is it bad for a fox to eat a chicken? Like, they aren't humans anymore. They have become predators. They have become beasts who prey on the blood. And so it's just what Teju, just what they were saying. It's just, it's very practical minded. And it would become oppressive, Johnny Dumb. Like, if you're a priest, and you don't go the route of Ethan Hawke and wrap yourself in barbed wire and drink Drano. We've covered a lot of movies with religion, by the way. We've been like House that Jack Built, First Reformed.
Yeah, Bad Lieutenant.
Bad Lieutenant.
Oh, even Only God Forgives.
Only
Yeah.
the devil all the time.
Yeah. Oh my God, Mark, I had no awareness of this being a theme, but now I love it. Now
We're
that you're
working
pointing it
something
out,
out, man, and it makes me happy.
we're getting philosophical. We're getting our spirit on. Yeah.
Yeah, the PKs.
Yeah.
So it just I like the way they handle this because like this you have one guy who's being practical, you have another woman who has sort of
She's
almost been imprisoned her whole life by
yeah.
her husband, by the mother. She's just kind of a an object in the home, just makes kind of kimbap, and
Hmm.
and then she becomes a beast who has great skin and can jump and get hit by cars and throw people into the woods beautifully. Probably the greatest woods like person into the woods throw I've ever seen. And
I yes,
yeah,
yes.
and like but then you have Sang Hyun's confident, like he's having a moral quandary in
Hmm.
this, and
Hmm.
it's just but then he created this monster.
Yes.
And so that's why this movie needs to happen the way it does. And even at the end, when they, spoiler, both die, you have this long comedic beat
Yeah.
of her trying to hide in the trunk, hide under the car.
Yeah.
She punches him in the gut. She tries to take him with her. It's,
Hmm.
it's very bleak. It's very dark. It's very comical, but it's also horrifying. And
Hmm.
to tell a tale of a good man who becomes a vampire, who turns a woman, who becomes infatuated, I feel like it has to get this treatment. I would not want to watch a watered down version of this movie.
No.
It
No.
it would just take out all of the art, and I do think this is an art because I'm not trying to just read from other reviews here, but I found another really cool thing.
Hmm. Sure.
A New York Times interview said that like it's more accurate to say that his eye for detail and composition is nearly unmatched. And so when he mines visceral horror, a tongue cut with scissors, teeth pulled out with the claw end of a hammer, the
Hmm.
images are so spellbinding, they pull you in rather than repel you. And Roger Ebert wrote, Park Chan-wook of South Korea is today's most successful director of horror films, perhaps because there's always more than horror to them. He
Hmm.
seems to be probing alarming depths of human nature. Maybe that's why he can simultaneously be celebrated on fanboy horror sites and win the jury prize at this year's Cannes Film Festival.
Mark, that's a really interesting observation, I think. You kind of got that dichotomy going on there
Of,
because
oh, sorry, go for it.
well, no, because Park Chan-wook is very he is like one of the names that people drop when they're talking about, Asian cinema, just period. And but he's also he sort of he has his feet in both of those worlds, like kind of the people who love horror movies. You can get what you want out of Thirst, I think. And if you're I don't want to say if you're one of those elevated horror people, which are usually within like the major critical circles, or people who aspire to that, it's like you can find something to appreciate there. And I think, yeah, that's a really good point. He kind of crosses the aisle, as it were. Maybe we need Park Chan-wook as president. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, please. And listen, I think this Handmaiden, Old Boy, and Decision to Leave is probably my second favorite movie of the year, next to probably Barbarian or
I need to
After
see it.
Sun.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy? Decision to Leave is a very PG movie. There's no nudity. There's not an insane amount of
Hmm.
violence. It's more of like a love story, an old school spy, detective, femme fatale noir. And it's
Okay.
beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But it's but he said he did it because he's like, I think I kind of want to win awards, so he kind of went. But it's still a sumptuous and beautiful, uh, gorgeous film. But it's for me Thirst, man, and this is sound like a bad comparison, but it bums me out that movies like Thirst get, they're on the kind of, yes, it won at Cannes, yes, cinephiles love it, yes, fans of quote unquote elevated horror, and even like people who just want to watch violence can like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But then you get
It's a
movies
violent
like,
movie.
I don't know, Midsummer and Hereditary that are heralded as gems, but I think Thirst is 14 times the movies that those are. And it's
Oh, yeah.
unnecessary to make that comparison,
Mhm.
but I think he has the capability of dragging you to places where you need to go. I don't think those other movies do that. So I don't know, man. I just wish he had more love. This guy, uh, and I'm so glad we're talking about this. I feel like Mitch Hedberg. He told a joke once where he said that he holds his microphone and he plugs it, so when he lets go, a bunch of jokes fly out at once. So this is me about this movie since 2009. I've just plugged the podcasting microphone, and now I'm letting go, and I'm like saying how much I love this film. And now, obviously, Johnny Numb, since we're covering on the Feel Good series, it's not a movie for everybody.
Oh, no.
We can't recommend this film to everyone. But I mean, I was watching this, and I get so annoyed sometimes. I'm like watching the cinematography in this movie, and I'm like, how was this? And listen, the world was a different place in 2009 as far as international cinema.
Mm-hmm.
But how is this not nominated for? Like, how? I know it's so extreme, but geez Louise, this is this is a film. This is a film.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Mark. And I think, you're talking, you mentioned Midsummer, Ari Aster or whoever. And I think something about this movie and something that maybe makes it more untouchable or makes it seem more untouchable to people than Midsummer or Hereditary. It's just the fact that maybe if the lead character in this movie hadn't been a priest, if there hadn't been a religious component in this film, it might have gone over more with perhaps mainstream audiences, but then you would have diluted, I think, one of the points, going back to Park Chan-wook talking about exploring guilt in his movies, and he's not using the religion or this priest as like a stunt, kind of like sort of like, hey, look what I'm doing here. He's actually putting the character, starting with this character and going through this whole rigmarole of transition and discomfort, and him succumbing to the pleasures of the flesh and becoming less and less like his former self in the name of sustaining not only his health through, human victims, but also because the things he does for love, and how fleeting love can be, as this movie shows, love brings with it all sorts of complications of its own, because people are so, even for as much as someone, I'm sure, you and I still get surprised by our partners sometimes. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. I didn't know that, or I didn't know that about you, or I've never heard that story before, or I've never seen that I've never seen that behavior before. That's interesting. I never noticed that. So I think what's interesting about Thirst is how it really digs its claws into that human element, in addition to balancing it against or juxtaposing it against the more fantastical vampire element of the film. I think I rambled off on a bunch of different things there.
I think you're perfect. I think that's absolutely what you said. I mean, he said first and foremost he wanted to make this a love story. Yeah. And so, yes, there are vampires. There is a thirst, but he also said this is first and foremost, I want this to be a love film. And you know what I love too is this is one of the rare movies that when these two characters meet, when Sang-hyun and Taeju meet, they immediately fall in love, right? You have this sort of flirtation, but then they get to know each other.
Complications.
And then toss in being an immortal vampire who becomes wildly powerful and can jump on buildings, and you become an alpha predator after not being an alpha predator. And so right. Like that, that's where the drama becomes, because so many people, I think, fall in love before they get to know each other, and they learn that sort of just lust, and then they kind of learn who each other are, and then there's like, oh crap, because she says to him like, I thought you were just a needy man, and then she said that I dread your cold hand upon me. Yeah. But then she lies to him about killing the husband, even though she's like, you would have done it anyway. And I just want to give some quick props to what Shin Ha-kyun, who he's so good in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, by the way.
That is a masterpiece, in my opinion. Yeah.
In this movie, he's just so farty and gross, and I love him.
Nose picking, everything.
And he calls her a Yeti, which makes me very happy. But she's like, he never hit me, and just she plays him, and then and then he starts hitting her. Like this guy who was once a great man starts hitting her.
Yeah.
And falling back into old patterns where she's the abused, and then she gets that of power. She's not going to deal with that anymore. She's not going to play by his rules. And so I think it is, once again, like I said, a very mature way to tackle vampires. But he even said this though, like he said that he wanted to tackle movies like Near Dark, The Hunger, Chronos, Let the Right One In. He mentions his favorite vampire film is Nosferatu, but he loves Herzog's. But he also mentions Abel Ferrara, which is what the
addiction.
Yeah, the addiction. What a brutal murder at the end of that. Then you have he said Coppola, which is Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is one of the most sumptuous films I've ever seen. Beautiful, gorgeous movie. And then Neil Jordan, who did Byzantium.
Oh yeah, and that's a good one too. Yeah.
And I just think that, well, didn't Neil Jordan also do Interview with the Vampire as well? Yeah. So like he wanted, I think he wanted to go for romantic. He didn't want to go for something, what's the word? Like he wanted to tackle different aspects of the vampires, which is what but like also Bram Stoker's Dracula is very romantic. You know, Interview with the Vampire is very romantic. The Addiction is not.
No,
not at all. But like Near Dark is such a different take on the vampire, and so is The Hunger. The Hunger is all about like sexuality and
well, and then the Hunger's about aging too.
Oh yeah, and I think these movies just do such a great job of tackling different aspects of the vampire lore, and you know, to make a priest a vampire, that's pretty devious. And I know this is based on prior, it was inspired by what Therese Raquin. I never, sorry if I butchered the name, but this is based on source material.
Yeah.
But I still love how I think vampires work best when there's an element of romance, when there's an element of danger. But they never lose track that these things are monsters, dude. And I know I don't care if I'm going round and round in a circle on this.
No, it's okay.
When there's so many great moments in this film, but I don't know. I think it's just an adult look at it, and it's bleakly funny. But I gotta tell you, man, like we watch a lot of movies, and I think I always go back to films like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, which puts you through a ringer. It just destroys you almost with its psychological horror. And then maybe movies like Devil's Reject, where whenever I think about it, I need a bath.
Oh yeah.
But that's so effective in how grimy and how mean it gets. And then I find myself thinking about Thirst or I Saw the Devil, that just put you through the meat grinder. So as much as I love horror movies like Final Destination 5 or that, I feel like my favorite horror films are the ones that just put you in it.
They pummel you. You feel pummeled afterwards. Yeah.
Because that's sometimes I feel like how horror and violence should be treated. But that's what I gotta tell you, dude. At the end of this, I was so physically drained, and just the way that everything encloses upon you. It's a lot of shoe work in this movie as well.
Yeah. Taking shoes off, trading shoes.
Yeah, running barefoot.
Throwing shoes, yeah.
That's the shoe throwing since Austin Powers.
We're in the shoe-averse now.
Oh yeah, but I don't know. So like, what was your feelings the first time you watched this movie? Like, what did you like? How familiar were you with Korean cinema when you watched this film first? And I'm not saying all Korean cinema is this gnarly, but I mean this isn't. I mean, where were you at when you watched Thirst for the first time?
Well, Mark, I'll be honest, is like Asian cinema had kind of been a blind spot in my viewing. So it's only within the past couple of years that my viewing of these movies has ramped up, and I've kind of come to the realization that guys like Park Chan-wook and Jun-ho Bong are just kind of like really bringing it.
Yeah, they are.
Well, and a lot of people are like, they're doing the South Koreans are doing it better than anything in America right now. And Parasite won the Best Picture a couple years ago. So I was kind of like, I don't know if I wouldn't say I was like green, but just I had no real awareness of what the movie was really about. Okay, I knew it was about vampires, but I didn't have much. I didn't read a synopsis. I just probably heard people talking about it, so I just kind of went into it cold. And what impressed me about it was how Park Chan-wook he's a great visual storyteller. He's just great at using all the technical elements of cinema to tell a story, and there's just a flow to his visuals and his camera work that kind of like he hooks you really early with a premise, and then he just brings you along for the ride. Sort of like that's sort of how I felt with I Saw the Devil. I've watched that twice, and each time I'm like, this movie does not feel like it's 2.5 hours long. It feels like it's 5 minutes, just because it just goes like that for, from one thing to the next, one complication, one horrible thing to the next in that movie. And this one's kind of the same way. And he kind of plays like he kind of whiplashes us at a couple points tonally, because it's like you get this feeling that it's going to be a romance, maybe like Only Lovers Left Alive, which is definitely more,
Beautiful.
it's another movie I love, but it's actually kind of mellow compared to this one, in terms of the relationship. But this one is just I love how he sort of lulls you with this notion of, hey, he's a vampire. He's going to turn this girl that he likes into a vampire. They're going to live happily ever after, just, victimizing random people and drinking their blood, you know. And then I'm like, oh no, that's not what this is. And it's like I said, it's relationships are complicated. And when you add in that sort of whole immortal life thing, as long as you keep drinking blood, it makes it even more complicated, especially when you have a partner who maybe is a bit of a loose cannon and,
Yeah.
and needs sort of some restraint. But I also kind of like, Mark, that correct me if I'm wrong. There's a moment near the third act, I think, where it's after they've remodeled the apartment and everything and put in that horrendous white walls and fluorescent lighting and everything. And someone comes over, and the priest, I think he's chastising Taejin for, like, she's trying to get at this person and drink her blood. And I think he chastises her, and then she leaves and comes back and sees him drinking this person's blood. I think that's how it went. But
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
like,
it is. Yeah.
yeah, there's like this aspect of hypocrisy in there as well, which can go back to the whole religious impetus as well. It's like, well, how much of a person of God can you be? You're human, you're flawed. Is it more like you can only do the best you possibly can, and then when something like this happens, all bets are off? It's like, okay, well, I'm more human than human now, so what do I have to lose? I'm just gonna I'm just gonna do what brings me pleasure, because you see in the early scenes him uh, sort of lashing himself for thinking impure thoughts before he fully transforms into a vampire.
Yeah, he does some
So
solid. He does some solid whacking,
yeah, there's definitely, it's not the whacking.
flagellation, self-flagellation.
Yeah, the self-flagellation. So, I kind of like that. I kind of like that. So much time is not so much time, but enough time is spent with him, sort of trying to get his head around the whole this
Yeah.
this whole extraordinary situation, which he starts off with the purest of intentions. It's like he wants to do good in the world. He wants to help people. And another thing, Mark, I love, is how the blind elder priest, who's his mentor, he wants this guy to change him into a vampire. So
Oh man, yeah. And he's like, I want to see, and then he calls him a hypocrite. He's like, you
yeah,
won't give me any of your blood. I'll give you mine.
yeah, exactly.
And just I do like those initial things where he kind of discovers his power, when he can punch light posts and they can
Hmm.
fall, and just all the people he's surrounded with. And when he is drinking that blood, that's Evelyn. He actually lets her live
Yeah.
because he's an interesting character too. Where Johnny Num, let's say you're Bill Paxton from Near Dark.
Okay.
All right, amazing character. I forget his name in that movie, but Bill
Finger
Paxton.
licking good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just so good. You meet another vampire who just occasionally murders people. You actually flipped a woman to become a vampire. But then here you are sort of playing holier than thou to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some hypocrisy involved there, where it's like you've
Yeah.
done horrible things. But I think what sets Chan-wook's films apart is that his characters at least try to do good things. So he's like,
Mm-hmm.
these characters attempt to take responsibility for the decisions that they make. Things may not turn out well for them, but because they're at least trying to account for the consequences of their actions, they are able to achieve some sort of integrity after all.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're trying, but they're not doing great. And I love that about them. Whereas like they're trying, but they keep failing. But
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's better than just embracing the dark side and becoming Bill Paxton from Near Dark.
Oh yeah, just a total killer. Yeah.
And as much as I love him in the movie, that's not where the drama comes from.
Mm-hmm.
You need that push and pull sort of
Oh, yeah.
for the character's sort of soul, I guess, or what's left of it.
Yeah, and something, Mark, that this was like my sort of key thought about why I maybe like this movie so much, and maybe it's part of why you like it so much, is that for a long time, vampires were kind of a solitary bunch in cinema. It was Bela Lugosi. Well, he had Renfield, but it was often kind of like the debonair playboy version of Dracula, kind of, and he was kind of a he liked the ladies, but he was kind of a playa in the in the long run. And it's like what those movies tend to focus on is more the vampire hunting aspect of things, which is often not as interesting because a lot of filmmakers don't do. I'm not saying all filmmakers, because I think a good example is Daybreakers. I think that's a great vampire movie that actually does a lot of interesting things with the mythos. But a lot of the times you're just like having people go through okay, you need wooden stakes. Okay, you need garlic. You need a crucifix. You need holy water. And that stuff just ain't interesting unless you find some interesting way to visually or attitudinally, sort of flip the script on it. And that's why I think when you focus on the vampires themselves and their conflicts and their just plain old relationships, like in this movie, that's more massively interesting to me, because you get that, okay, they're vampires, but they're still human. They got those pesky human emotions that they that they got to wade through. Vampirism may solve the human mortality issue as long as you're careful, but you still got to contend with those human emotions. And when you drag more characters into your web, the more complicated it's going to get. And it's going to, it could wind up just being like a headache, where you wonder why you're not in marriage counseling or something like that, because it's, you got problems that need to be worked out,
Oh yeah. And I think this is what I think you're right. And just exploring this character. I mean, and a lot of props has to go to Song Kang-ho for playing this really likable priest who to deal with his depressants is supposed to get lots of sun. And he tells people he doesn't tell people to get lots of sun, which makes me so happy.
Right.
But he volunteers his body, and then he becomes a vampire against his will.
Mm-hmm.
But then this new power brings forth different things for him, and it's just this slow descent. I like that it's a slow descent too, Johnny Numb, where it's not, sometimes in movies I think people turn too quick. And so it's just neat watching this slow, it's kind of like, this movie's interesting because, like the movie Annihilation, Alex Garland said that yes, I guess, I don't know, when you boil lobster, you can start with it slightly like room temp water, then a little hotter, and then they don't really realize they're being boiled towards the end. This movie does that, but then it cranks it all the way up and just burns the hell out of you.
By the end.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, it slowly gets you there, but then it goes Vin Diesel from Fast and Furious and just floors it, and it hits the nos. That's what I see happening, man. Like, that's people will die. Like, it's, when you become a vampire who feasts on blood, it's going to be very hard to be good. It's like, as much as you try, I feel like that's going to lead to just more and more worse things.
Yeah.
And this explores that, and I dig it. I know, whatever. I don't care.
Well,
I
well,
love it.
you know something, Mark? I kind of like how it's Park Chan-wook is really good. Like even in the other movies I've seen of his, he's really great at introducing all the characters you're going to follow in a pretty expedient manner, and you immediately get their personalities and you know who they are. And basically, this whole film centers around the people who play mahjong at
Yeah.
Taijin's house. Um, and it's like because like I told you, it had been a while since I'd watched this movie, so I was like, how does this pan out for these characters? Because I was like pretty sure everybody got killed or something, by the time all was said and done, but I wasn't sure how it all fell into place. And I was just kind of fascinated by how it's kind of like each person around the mahjong table gets slightly wise to what's happening, and they have to go kind of,
Mm-hmm.
or they have to be kind of put in a paralytic state. So I mean, there's the fantastic scene with what's the woman's name I'm looking for? It
Evelyn?
Miss Evelyn.
Are you talking about the wife or the mom?
I'm talking about the mom. The mom who's like she's kind of the matriarch of the house.
Oh, who becomes Miss Ra, is you're saying?
Miss Ra,
Yeah.
yeah. There's that great scene where she's kept alive in that house,
Oh gosh.
and they're playing mahjong. It is a brilliant. Okay, this doesn't have anything to do with anything, but the scene is just so damn brilliant because she can't speak. She can only blink and tap her finger. So the characters start asking her these yes or no questions, or asking her to explain, like if this is what it is, like tap your finger twice or something like that. And it's like goes on for minutes. And it's Taijin and the priest are getting like kind of antsy. It's like, uh-oh, we didn't count on this, so now what are we gonna do? Okay, let's wait and see what happens. But the scene goes on for like this. It's like this minute long question and response thing where Mrs. Ra is just like blinking or tapping her finger. It is just genius, and it's so suspenseful at the same time, just through that minimalist of means, I think. Yeah.
And the noose is so slowly tightened around them. Where
Yeah.
first they're kind of blowing her off, like, oh, she doesn't mean anything. But then the people keep going.
Yeah.
And then it just gets to the point where it's, all right, we're done. Fair enough. Yeah, oh man, what a scene. Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah, but like that's the perfection of this director. I just think you've been driven into the grossest, most claustrophobic area, and then he tightens the noose, and they even build to that when she's like, "Did you move your finger earlier?"
Mm-hmm.
They just go to that scene. I love when she picks her up. They're like, "Oh, she's gotten really strong." But it's
yeah, and that's just that is so funny, and it's just so matter of fact that
like, all right, make sure to eat, like don't have a diet that's full of salt. Remember when she gets that? Oh, drinking a lot, salty beverages, and high blood pressure will get you there when they're standing over her body. This movie has a sense of humor, man. When like he's laying on the floor drinking blood, but yeah, what a scene. But like that's how I think he's able to find that success. And I think this is gonna sound bad, and there's no point to this. But I did work on an episode about this, but people like to talk about Bong Joon-ho or Joon-ho Bong versus Park Chan-wook. But I think what Bong Joon-ho has done a great job of is making movies like Snowpiercer, making movies like Parasite, which is much more accessible than most of his films, by making Memories of Murder, which I think pretty much many directors have kind of copied, and I got the Criterion Okja as well.
Yeah.
He's just done a good job of being a little bit more accessible for mainstream audiences, because with Parasite you have the kind of class warfare. Okja, you have the giant animal. Snowpiercer, you have Captain America beating up henchmen who stick axes in fish.
Right.
So Host also, which is a beautiful monster movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Park Chan-wook, who's gone, he did JSA, Joint Security Area, which was really popular. But then he made Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy, Lady Vengeance, Three Extremes. I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay, which is bonkers. And then, Thirst, Stoker, and then
Yeah.
Handmaiden. Like, Handmaiden is an absolute work of art, but none of those movies can cross, uh, let's see, what, Session 9, not Session
Mhm.
9, District 9, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I'm talking,
Yeah.
like, I guess what I'm talking about is, like, outside the United States, movies coming in that have hit big.
Hmm.
His movies just aren't going to hit big, um,
Yeah,
at all.
and it kind of makes me sad, Mark, when I mean I do want to see a decision to leave, and I have a feeling it'll probably come around my area maybe a little later in the year. But it kind of made me sad when you said, "Yeah, I want to, I want to make a movie that might win awards." I was like, it's a shame. I think that that accessibility is so often um, correlated to merit.
Hmm.
And I think that's why I kind of stopped watching the Oscars years ago, because I just like, oh, it's great that what Willem Dafoe got nominated for The Lighthouse or something like that, but he's not going to win it because
Yeah.
The Lighthouse is it's a farting, disturbing movie about two guys going crazy at a lighthouse.
Drinking turpentine and farting.
Yeah, I know. It's like
One
it's
of our
just a
weekends.
yeah. Scotch eggs at the lighthouse. Yeah. Um, but 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 you know what I mean. It's like sort of those not pity, but sympathy nods. It's like, well, this movie has merit, but man, it's certainly not to the mainstream's taste palette. But we got
Yeah.
to recognize it somehow. So I feel kind of sad about that because I don't know. Like sort of First Reformed, I think, had the same problem. It was like I think that only got nominated for Best Original Screenplay, and it didn't win that. You know.
How do you
So
watch that and just go, yeah, Ethan Hawke, he's good, but he doesn't deserve a nomination.
he was okay.
Less Drano, less Drano.
Less Pepto Bismol, less suicide vests. Yeah.
Less flying with Amanda Seyfried.
Yeah. Less Magical Mystery Tour. Less Neil Young songs by the Superfund site. Yeah. But no, that's kind of because I agree with you about Bong Joon-ho is that his stuff does kind of toe that. I think he toes that mainstream line a bit better
Mhm.
for his purposes, um, to sort of get that maybe more wider mainstream acceptance / recognition. I'm not saying his movies aren't tough
No.
in their own way. You know,
And
Snowpiercer.
funny.
Oh yeah, and I mean Snowpiercer. I saw that in the theater, and I knew nothing about that going into. I took my parents to go see that movie, and it just totally felt like I'd been punched in the gut by the end of it.
Yeah. It
You
goes off
know,
the rails, LOL.
literally, yeah, yeah. And for a second, I thought it wasn't going to give us sort of that little bit of uplift at the end. I thought it was like, okay, the train's crashed. Spoiler alert. And that's the end of the movie. Humanity is doomed. Yeah. So.
Yeah, listen, he goes there. I mean, the host. I mean, with the family breakdown where they're all crying on the ground with the overhead shot.
Yeah.
When you have Memories of Murder, the way it takes its time, and even Parasite, the way it goes
Oh
so
yeah.
bloody. So I
Hmm.
guess I'm not knocking on him, but I guess I'm just saying he's found a way to more like kind of synthesize different cultures around the world to make
Oh
hits,
yeah.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Hmm.
And when I watched Decision to Leave, as much as I said he made a movie that he wanted to win awards, it's still very much so one of his films, and
Hmm.
I doubt it'll win the award because it's just so good. um, and it kind of annoys me because like I don't feel like he should be making. I don't think he should be at this point where he's like, I just I got to make more accessible movies. I mean, because at this point, David Leitch and Chad Zdarsky, they
Hmm.
based the John Wick franchise. They were inspired by the Revenge trilogy.
Oh wow. Okay.
That
Yeah.
movie, Richard Shepard, he did The Perfection. That movie got
Yeah.
a ton of love. He loves The Handmaiden, and you
Wow.
like and also I mean he was also Park Chan-wook was inspired by Vertigo, deeply influenced by Vertigo,
Hmm.
and I don't know, I see all those influence, so I think I'm happy knowing that cinephiles love his stuff. The people
Yeah.
at Cannes respect his stuff. Even in Korea, man, like they've won a ton of awards. I
Hmm.
mean, so 5 of the last 20 best film awards at the Blue Dragon Film Awards, 20 of like 5, like Joint Security Area 2000, Lady Vengeance 2005, host, well, so he did Joint Security, Lady Vengeance, and then I mean, in Korea he's respected.
Yeah,
Amongst cinephiles he's respected, but you don't really see his movies on Criterion.
yeah. I mean, well, yeah, you're right. Actually, Thirst is a Kino Lorber release in the United States. Yeah.
Oh, but they're awesome. I love me some Kino.
Oh no, I love their sales, man. I always find way too much stuff to buy during their sales. So, but yeah, no, it's like I feel like for Park Chan-wook, it's like his movies they're out there, and it's not like he's a filmmaker where you have to import a Blu-ray from Germany or Taiwan or something to see his stuff. I mean, it's like his stuff is distributed in the States, so you can access it, but it is almost a little bit more of a cinephile type niche he's in. I mean, it's interesting that I feel like his most mainstream movie or his English language debut, Stoker, which is a good movie. And that kind of explores some of the same issues of guilt and, relationships. God, pencils, scissors. Yeah. Good Lord. Spiders and pianos. Yeah. But, that movie, I was kind of, at the time I was like not big into Park Chan-wook, but I was like, now I look back and I was like, man, I was fortunate to be able to see that movie in a theater when it came out. But again, that's like, despite having Matthew Good, Mia Wasikowska, and Nicole Kidman in that movie, it is still it's a beautifully shot movie, but it's so damn dark, The content is disturbing, and again, it's stuff that's revolving around family and relationships between mother-daughter, relationships between daughter and estranged uncle. Yeah, it's just very non-mainstream stuff, and he doesn't do Wentworth Miller wrote the script for that one, but neither one of them cop out with like kind of a happy ending, because kind of the evil in these movies is kind of it's not a Hans Gruber and his crew, it's like evil is a more amorphous concept in these films, and I think maybe that's why it's a little more difficult for people to get on board with it, because you can't pin it down to one character. You can't like project your hate as a viewer onto one character per se, because they're more complicated than that. You may not always like these characters, but they do have these moments of humanity that make them relatable. And and that's what makes it complex. And I don't want to make a gross generalization about movie viewers or people that go to the movies, but it's just like a lot of people don't want to be have their brains kind of tested or challenged like that, or their morals for that matter.
I was thinking about this, and let's just go to '67 when in the heat of the night, Bonnie and Clyde.
Movie. Yeah.
You have The Graduate, you have that just explosion, then you move to Easy Rider, in the later years, and the John Voight Dustin Hoffman movie. I'm pulling a blank. Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah.
And then you go through the '70s with Zoetrope and De Palma and just Godfather, and I think Americans really started to embrace Italian neorealism. They started embracing the French New Wave. Times were changing. The Hays Code was dying. They were allowing farts in cinema now. They really went for Raging Bull. They went for Taxi Driver. But what I find is interesting, like after '67 through the '70s, when cinema was much more, even look at Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was very real. It was very angry, gritty.
Yeah.
But then you get the '80s, which was a lot of, Star Wars also helped with this, but you have a lot of fantasy, sci-fi, Flash Gordon, John Hughes, and then the '90s, which went to, Jurassic Park, and then Tarantino ripoffs, and then Matrix changed the game, and then superhero movies were introduced. And sometimes I wonder if, I'm not bagging on Americans, but I think sometimes if they just kind of were like, listen, after that decade of realism, they kind of just went like, let's go to Amblin. Let's like shift a little bit.
Let's escape.
Yeah. And also like, listen, many horrifying things happen in the United States, but when you look at Italy post-war, how much it was just ravaged, right? How much France was ravaged, how much Japan, the Korean War, I mean, these are countries that have seen massive, gigantic battles on their soil. I think sometimes that's why maybe these audiences embrace more of the realist approach, because I don't know. I think America just grew so fast, and like it's just so like go 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 go. There's just such a different vibe, and listen, we had the Civil War in the 1800s, but I'm talking more like modern times. And so that's why I wonder if, like, audiences in America just don't want to have that. Like, we just haven't, either they don't want to wallow in it, don't want to think about it. It's just something that I've been processing lately because, the late 60s and 70s, America had a lot of that. And, even though Tarantino says, I kind of disagree with Tarantino when he says, like, we're living in a bad age for movies, because I think I think it's very generalized, and I'm very heavily pulling out of context, but are we getting Raging Bulls? No. But we also in a time when there's more female voices, there's more diverse voices. There are many good movies being released, but the reason why movies in the cinema are the way they are because we have to keep cinemas alive.
Right.
I think why people started doing huge musicals in the 50s to combat television. And when I mean cinema's been supposedly dying for years, and they keep having to pull stuff out of their hats to keep audiences coming.
Decades,
And so, I don't know. I think he's a little bit wrong on that, but I do think that you watch movies that get delivered over here, and they're much more grounded, they're much more real, they're much more temperate. And I think his movies are slightly cold in their approach sometimes. And so. I'm not bagging on American audiences. We're a completely different culture and we've experienced so many completely different things. But I just think his movies, you look at Venice, right? He's won Venice Film Festival awards. He's won Cannes Film Festival awards. He's won, Korean Film Festival awards, Montreal. He's been Jerusalem Film Festival. This is a guy who, around the world has won Faroe Island. That's interesting. But I think around the world, he's like Caesar Awards. He's won in France, Cannes. So I think around the world he's appreciated because they're just Berlin. Their style of cinema is so much different here. But like Thirst is just not going to translate well to the States, and it won't, right? Like I guess that's unrealistic to think that it would.
Well, maybe Mark. I'm trying to get the timeline in my head, just off the top of my head, but Thirst was 2009, and I believe probably America was in the midst of Twilight mania at that time.
Mania.
So that was kind of America's answer to the vampire blockbuster at the time. And maybe if you put those two side by side, there's like no comparison. They're just totally different, takes on the mythology. And I don't have enough of a horse in the Twilight race to really make a judgment on it, but it's. Often it's like, well, this was a successful book. Let's option it. Let's get as many adaptations as we can, so it makes as much money as possible. Like you said, get the butts in seats, because this is the movie that'll save theaters. It'll keep the lights on. Unfortunately, Thirst is like it's an extremely well done. It's an extremely beautiful movie. You'd be lucky to see. You're lucky to see movies that are so well shot and well performed and just come together so well narratively. And I think in that it's not a boring sort of stuffy art house sit in that way. It's not full of itself like some art house films are. I just think it's kind of, that's not how, it's just not how people, unless you're weird people like you and I choose to sort of, I'm going to unwind with this bit of bleak vampire escapism from South Korea, It's not light viewing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful filmmaking, but it's not light viewing. Yeah.
And it's not overly pretentious.
Oh no, not at all.
It's just a great film.
There's no like really. I think this movie is like it's like a 4 out of 5 for me. 4 out of 5 star film. And I'm very kind of attuned to when a movie is being pretentious. Billy Crash gives me crap for using that word sometimes to describe a movie, but I can kind of tell when a filmmaker is kind of trying to reach for something and he's not grasping it, and it's painful when that happens, whether it's a concept or they're trying to convey some sort of twist or whatever, and it comes off badly or it comes off sort of half.
Inorganic. That's when I
Yeah,
think a film is pretentious, is when it's inorganic.
that's a good way of putting it. Like when it feels unnatural, to what the story is trying to be. And yeah, I've fallen victim to a lot of movies that start out pretty great with their concepts and then totally botch the landing, and those are some of the worst movies I've seen because they let you down so badly.
Hmm.
But this movie, he's a confident filmmaker. Just he knows what he's doing, and like I keep going back to just how beautiful it is, despite the fact that there's sometimes ugliness getting sort of ripped or splattered across the screen. It's still, you can't take your eyes off of it. He kind of makes you wallow sometimes with these characters. It's like, but you're still attached to them. You relate to them, and that's why, Mark, going back to the ending which you alluded to, uh, that's an ending. It seems like it goes on for so long once it's revealed where they are, and it just feels like every second that passes, you're like wondering how it's going to pan out. And you just feel like with each passing second, it's getting closer and closer to the sun coming up over the horizon. So what's going to,
Hmm.
what is the end game here? And you kind of know what it is, but the way it's executed is just like you said, it's funny. There's some physical comedy there, but it's also horrific. And it's also kind of these characters coming to this conclusion is like, well, in a sense, like Icarus, they flew a bit too close to the sun, not to put too fine a point on it there.
I mean, they did.
Yeah,
They
literally. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I mean, and I love that. I love that they think of every aspect. You punch the trunk off, go get the trunk, go under the car, move the car forward.
Yeah.
It's it's it, but that's what's great about it. It's played very darkly comedic.
Hmm.
And some movies really swell. If you think about like Deep Impact or these movies where people are standing in front of gigantic waves that are going to murder them, you get
Oh
very
yeah.
sort of melodramatic. This is
Yeah.
played really comedically.
Hmm.
And then you have a good shoe bit. And then you have a woman watching it all who is just absolutely paralyzed in fear. So
Well,
instead of going wildly emotional, you
mhm.
have this sick sense of humor uh,
Oh yeah.
carrying you through it. But I don't know. I guess these movies just hit my wavelength, and uh,
Well, what's funny, Mark, is I think Mrs. Ra is actually kind of smiling. She's kind of like, you two, okay, you two finally reap what you sow. I may not be able to ever get out of here, but you two had this coming.
hmm
You two were really made for each other. So, have fun disintegrating in the sun. I don't
just
know.
just melting together,
Yeah.
and just the
Yeah.
visuals of it all. But it's like this movie also too. Like, it's a weird film because he knows what he's doing. Because there are moments where you just feel alive. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't want to go too far into this, but like there's about a half an hour of this movie that's just the two of them having sex and like discovering like each other and their powers. And like, so you have this elation.
Hmm.
You have him jumping in the air with her, right? You have her experiencing his athleticism, jumping in the air, and you have the flight. You have this beauty, and
Yeah.
then you have them sort of discovering each other. This really illicit affair. But then
Hmm.
you have the murder, and then you have a guy. This movie spends 30 minutes with a dead character who's bloated,
Yeah.
gurgling water and farting, and having them deal with this. Like, so you
Right.
start with all this passion, but then you slowly unravel. And a lot of movies don't give you that time
Hmm.
to watch a bloated corpse who doesn't become a jet ski. This isn't Swiss Army Man with a farting corpse. But it wears you down with that. And then when he turns her, like, he kills her, dude. And then he
Hmm.
turns her into a vampire. Also, this
Yeah.
movie has the greatest double choke of all time. She's choking a guy, and then he picks her up and chokes her. Like, it's like a it's like a really great double choke. But yeah, I just
Well,
love how he gets his new powers and he have this illicit affair,
hmm.
and then you have the dawning realization of the murder. Then you have the turn. Then you have the descent into madness, and then you
Hmm.
have the final death, which is not played really dramatically. It's played more humorously.
Yeah. Well, I think there's kind of this acknowledgement, like, between the two of them. By the time the sun is coming up, Mark, it's kind of like she's kind of like, yeah, I'm sorry I was such a jerk or whatever, and or something to that extent. And he's kind of like resigned. I think he's like, yeah, I made a well, I couldn't help what happened to me. I made this decision to do this thing, and then this is what happened. This is what I changed into, but I couldn't, that it wasn't for this world. It's again, it's like man was not meant to kind of go where I went, so I got to stop this. And in some ways, what they're doing is kind of this, they're kind of sparing the rest of humanity by sort of doing, well, he's kind of all in with this suicide pact, but she kind of reluctantly has to be dragged into it. But I understand it. I understand that mentality. And to your point, Mark, about the relationship and the sex and the affair and everything, that's what they call the honeymoon phase. Like in relationships, it's like where the oxytocin is just like firing on all cylinders when you first get to know someone. And it's like, I don't know what they say. It's like, 3 months to a year that can last. And then after that goes away, you really have to start working at the relationship, so that's when it gets hard. It gets more difficult or challenging as it goes on. And you really need to sync up with your partner and communicate and understand them. And I swear I'm not turning this into a marriage counseling podcast, but it's just like this is just stuff I've thought about.
Yeah, actually, I mean, relationship advice with Johnny Numb. I'll host that show. We'll do a call in. We'll have people ask you questions. But you're absolutely right. They have that honeymoon phase, and then she proves. But what's kind of crazy is she proves to start being unwieldy, and he just starts beating her. Because you have this idolized view, and then she tries to become her own person, and he's become this powerful being. It's oh man, and then it just goes there. And after she kills the men, he's like, listen, we'll just cut their ankles off and put their blood in Tupperware and we'll save it. And I feel like at that moment, he's like, I don't want to live this life anymore. We have to cut their ankles off. We have to move. They're still in the honeymoon phase, and then they don't have time to battle through it because of what they've done. But
everything is moving so fast, and you got to make these quick decisions that don't always pan out in the long term. Yeah.
Oh man, what a movie.
It's what a good movie.
One. There's so many bits we haven't talked about. Like, I love the tiny mirror. I love, made me want to go eat kimbap. I used to eat a ton of that. It's just.
It makes me curious. I've never played Mahjong, but it makes me curious to play Mahjong. Maybe there's a Mahjong app on my phone.
Yeah, add me. We'll play. And,
okay, we'll figure out Mahjong.
We'll sip on red liquid, Big Red, or something. I don't know what they are. Red Dog Ale, and play some of that. But listen, we don't have much time left. But this movie still, it just goes there. And for me, I love that it goes there, and it finds an art in going there, and it's never overly. This is like. This movie's not destined for the mainstream, and I'm pretty sure that Park Chan-wook can say that himself. But I'm just so glad that he made this movie. It's interesting watching these haunted souls. It's interesting just watching them. Like, I don't know. It's just, and you get power. I don't know. I don't know. I wish I had more articulate things to say, Johnny Numb.
No, it's okay, Mark. I think it goes back to us liking these. We like them and we don't like them. These characters, and that it's because we like them and don't like them, and sometimes can relate to them, that keeps us in the story, and it keeps us watching even when things get ugly, whether it's emotionally or just in terms of the carnage on display. It's just. A lot of times my co-host Billy Crash says, good characters are gonna really make, good characters and good story make the movie, and I think that's really the case with this. The characters are complex, they're layered, and I love I'll just say it. I love moral ambiguity or films that don't speed feed me. Spoon. It's Fast and Furious. They're speed feeding me. No, just movies that don't spoon feed you their morality and kind of hit you over the head with it. It's kind of like, you kind of to be annoyed by and angry with, but also be able to relate to these characters is a very human reaction, I think. And I think the film really hits the humanity behind the fantastic elements. Yeah.
I love it. And what I love about our feel good series is that these movies, I think everyone we've tackled has really tackled interesting aspects of violence, of moral ambiguity, of, Elle not doing what you think people should do, of Green Room, the violence. And at the end of the day, when Anton Yelchin sees Patrick Stewart, he's like, you're a lot scarier at night, talking about leaders of people. And, like House That Jack built in his trip through hell, First Reformed, of a pastor losing his mind. Of a bad lieutenant losing his mind. The Devil All the Time, the battle of this kid's soul as he moves on. But I think
battle to not become your parents or father. Yeah.
And like, I feel like the movies we've talked about, I just think the violence has been ugly and like hurt, and it's just good characters. And I don't know, I've really enjoyed. And Only God Forgives, like that movie, man. He like wants to fight a god. And it's just so ugly. Like they don't pull their punches, and I've really enjoyed this series we've done. So thank you.
And it's gonna keep going on.
That's right.
As long as I have breath in my body, Mark, we shall be doing the Feel Good series.
I love it. All right, so we'll plan on what to do next. And hey, where can people find you until the next episode?
Okay, you can find me over at crashpalaceproductions.com, where I post movie reviews, horror movie reviews. And I also co-host The Last Knock with Billy Crash. We've been sort of on hiatus, but we do have a new episode dropping this coming Sunday, this will probably be posted after that, but I believe it's the 3rd or 4th or 2nd of December. I can't remember which. Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at Johnny Numb. There are no H's in those Johnnies. Come on over and talk film, talk self-deprecation, talk immortality, talk what you would do if if you got turned into a vampire.
A farting vampire.
I'm sick of your farts.
Oh man. Between Swiss Army Man, Lighthouse, like I was looking back, like E2 Mama Tambien, The Master, like there's like I think farts in really good prestige movies need to come back.
Oh yeah, no question.
Like let's claim the farts for prestige cinema.
Mark, I know you have a tournament currently up on Movies, Films, and Flicks, which I'm going to contribute to, but I think we need to do fart squads at some point.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's just next episode. How about that? It'll give us time to prep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and we'll do an all-time fart scenes in movies episode. I mean, listen, I'm already thinking of a bunch, and we could talk about the history of farts in cinema. We could teach people about the farting history of movies.
You could teach a class, Mark, on the fart in cinema.
I'll do it.
You know what? Your students would probably be sick. They'd probably laugh at it at first, and then they'd be just tired of it by the end of the semester.
Just farting 101. I'll dedicate. So I'm doing short form production right now, but I also teach film studies. So film studies, I'll dedicate like an hour to farts. But I'll tie in the Hays Code. I'll tie in raunchy comedies. I'll tie in farts, like the all-timer farts, and then talk about the evolution of gas. It'll be a good time to pass time talking about passing gas.
I love it. Right. I love it, man.
Well, as always, man, thank you so much for joining me. This was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I appreciate it.
All right, so from me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for Johnny Numb, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.